I'm going to call this video the Powerglove for Love. Or it might be called the avoiding, or rather perhaps the witnessing of the Oedipus complex of the soul. So maybe first I'll dig into the Oedipus complex. It's the story roughly of, well, first Freud considered it the central archetype of the human existence. And in some degree I kind of agree, maybe not the central, but very central, absolutely. And in it there's a man who doesn't know that his mother is his mother, and so he kills his father to be with his mother, although he doesn't, as you know that it is his mother. And then once he kills his father, he finds out that it is his mother, so he gouges out his eyes. And this is an expression in many regards of the fixation on the Great Mother in some regards, or this is the way Ken Wilber sometimes frames it. So, and it makes a certain amount of sense, and agrees with Freud in many regards. It's the notion that in developmental psychology, the movement roughly from purple to red, the movement from within the mind realm, so sort of the emotional world, into the self-reflexivity of one's individual self in relation to others, not just one other, but the creative principles of other in some regards. It takes both a father and a mother to create the son. So you have the triad, the trinity. The trinity is, in my opinion, sort of an expression of self-reflecting mind. In my system, I call it the third, 3 steps up, where the second is duality, yourself against or in opposition to an undifferentiated world. You just recognize emotionally sort of that there is other, but you can't really concretize or particularize the other in any relevant sense. So it's all other in the purple kind of undifferentiated sense. And even more so within the whole emotional sphere, where purple, in my opinion, is sort of a fractal reflection of that in some regards. And so this more or less undifferentiated emotional water that you're a part of is differentiated for water, and then there is, if done well, a reintegration of the power of the Father. The Father does have this creative capacity, and it can be overly focused on, and then it becomes overly hierarchical and overly power focused. So in that sense, the Oedipus complex was the fixation on going too far in the emotive, too far in not reaching for that which is higher. So the fall sort of, in some regards, romanticizes this undifferentiated state. In sort of biblical terms, is the fall of man, but it's actually a heightening in awareness, in the sense that we recognize our own solar self, our own ability to be the Father, the Creator, the causal being within nature, and not being totally at the whim of nature. Now, that is not to say that these principles don't continue, and that's the unhealthy repression of nature, in the sense that you don't want to allow for any chaos, the chaos of nature. So that would be to overly repress it. And then in a similar fashion, I would say perhaps that the Oedipus complex of the soul is using power, which is sort of the third system, which is this whole process of humanization from 250,000 years ago to today, using that for the purposes or manipulating love for the purposes of power.